Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm so excited today. I have Caroline Chang from Awake to Oneness Radio. Caroline's has it's a fantastic online radio show where she reviews different books and talks about the awakening and has a particular desire for oneness. Talks about it, and I just wanted to bring her on the show and talk about her experience in awakening. And I thought it would be important to share it with everyone. So, good morning, Caroline. How are you?
Good morning. Actually, it's afternoon here where I am
Okay.
on the East Coast,
All right.
but I'm an East Coast girl, and I'm gonna sing and I can't sing. It's Sweet Caroline. You know, you're not the only person. So many people call me Carolyn, but
Mm-hmm.
I was actually born in '62,
Okay.
and when I was born, my dad said, oh, well, actually, I usually ask a question. Who was president in '62?
That would be Richard Nixon?
No, 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 no. John F. Kennedy.
John F. Kennedy. Okay.
John
Yeah.
F. Kennedy was president in '62. And my father said, if it's good enough for the president's daughter, it's good enough for
Okay.
mine. I was named after Caroline Kennedy.
Caroline Chang. So sorry
Yes.
about that. Thank you very
That's
much.
okay. No, it's very common. And so I start singing Sweet Caroline because that song was actually written for her.
Okay.
Yes, that song was
Very cool.
actually written for Caroline Kennedy. But yes, you wanted me to share, and I like I said, my show is Awake to Oneness Radio, and
Mm-hmm.
it is about waking. The mission of my show is to awaken the world to the universal truth of oneness. See, that to me, when I was awakened to oneness, which was science, quantum
Mm-hmm.
physics, is what awoken me to the truth of oneness. I had been studying metaphysics, spirituality off and on for at least 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in my early to mid 40s where I watched What the Bleep,
Mm-hmm.
which is a documentary about quantum physics.
Right.
And it was the quantum physics, it was the science that really had me have an understanding of oneness from a heart and soul level, not an
Right.
intellectual level. It's a difference because our mind, our intellect really just goes off of the physical realm. You know, what we have been taught in all the physical realm is what the intellect works off of. Our heart
Right.
and soul is a much higher intelligence.
Right.
Yeah. Yes. And so when I woke up to the truth of oneness, it was a heart and soul awakening. And that was in 2007.
Wonderful. And so in 2007, did something in particular happen to you? It's just an awareness and an awareness of something?
No, I had nothing other than the fact that for many years, for 30 years, I was kind of on a search.
Right.
And I knew, like all through my teens and my 20s and my 30s, I was on a search for truth.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew there was something inside me that said, you're missing one piece. I
Right.
knew there was just one piece of the puzzle that was missing. And that one piece was understanding that we are all connected, that everything is energy,
Mm-hmm.
and that energy is interconnected and interdependent. And it's not just a nice saying.
Right. Right.
It is universal truth. Everywhere you look, it talks about how everything is interconnected and interdependent. In nature, science, ancient wisdom, spirituality, at the
Right.
core of all religions is this oneness. And it's a very simple truth when you get it, when you truly get it here, not here, but when
Right.
you really get it in your heart and soul, that there's nothing separate from you.
Right.
That's a game changer. That's a paradigm changer. It changes everything. You
Yeah.
know that that other person that appears separate is not separate. So
Right.
you know that what you do to another person, you're literally doing to another aspect of yourself. And when you know that, when you know that at the core of your being, you can't hurt another person.
Right.
You understand? So
I do. Yeah.
in 2007, no, nothing happened other than that documentary, which
Right.
woke me up. And it was one sentence.
Oh, really?
Yeah, one sentence. Yeah, the documentary is very long, and
Oh,
I
I've seen it.
recommend.
It's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I recommend just looking at the documentary part, not the movie part, because there's a movie part to it, and then there's the
Right.
documentary. The movie part to me is silly, just to be honest. It's the documentary where all the interviews with the quantum physicists and all of that. But there
Right.
was Lynn McTaggart, who is a
It was
journalist.
wonderful. Yes.
Yes, she's been a guest on my show.
Oh,
Yes, she's
wow.
amazing. Yes, 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 yes. And I've had several scientists from that documentary have been guests on my show. So
Wonderful.
yeah, it's amazing. But she said one sentence. It was just one sentence that was the key to my awakening.
Yeah.
It was the biggest problem in the world today is the illusion of separateness.
Yes.
Yes. So like I said, it's a simple truth. It truly is very
Hmm.
simple. When you know it, not just airy fairy, like, oh, it's a nice saying. Not that
Right.
kind of thing. And a lot of people, here's the thing, a lot of people talk about oneness, but are truly not living it from the core of its being.
Right.
Because when you're living oneness from the core of your being, someone you despise, you can think of the worst act that a person can do.
Right.
And you can look at that person and know that person is not separate from you.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And you know it at the core of your being. And that is the true game changer.
It is.
And it's a
Absolutely.
very simple game. It's a paradigm shift. It's a total paradigm shift. And so when I woke up to that truth in 2007, I to me it felt so simple. And it's like, why doesn't everybody get this? It's so
Yeah.
simple. You know, but then so at first I wanted to like shake people awake, but then spirit's like, no, 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 no. We're all unique divine aspects of all that is God.
Hmm.
My term for God is all that is, because
Right.
there's nothing separate from God. And
Which is what how Seth, if you ever read those, that's
yes, I've read all of
that's
Seth.
how
I read
Seth referred to God. He called it the all that is.
not only Seth, also Bashar. I'm not
Bashar,
sure
right.
if you're
Of
familiar
course.
with, but no, okay. So after that awakening to oneness, that's when I discovered Abraham Hicks. I went from Abraham Hicks to Seth, and then from Seth to a lot of the scientists like Greg Braden,
Hmm.
Dr. Bruce Lipton, who's been on my show. So a lot of this. So I kind of went. I absorbed it like it was candy. You know,
Right.
I just absorbed all of that. And I saw how this oneness to me is such a simple awakening and everybody's going to come to it at their own pace,
Hmm.
in their own journey, if that's their soul plan.
Right.
See, not everybody's soul plan is to awaken in this lifetime.
True.
We live many, many
We
lifetimes.
do. Uh,
Yes.
One of my favorite authors, David Hawkins, has a book called Levels of Energy, and he talks about these scales of energy, and the highest being this oneness and awareness of oneness, people working from these energies. So I love that because it's the purest, highest form of energy. Most people that watch that documentary were like, that's good, that's interesting. But you were inspired enough to start your show and
Well, actually,
a
I'm
whole
sorry.
other level. So I'm interested to see. I mean, beyond that point, you were like, I don't need to just have this knowledge. I want to
Right.
take action and go out and interview some. You have some amazing interviews with some great authors, as you said. Really special. Lynn McTaggart and Bruce Lipton, the guys for the Law of One LLC, and so many others. If anybody, I'll make sure to put a link for the
Okay.
show to all of your stuff. Uh,
Hmm.
but most people watch that documentary and they're like, that's pretty interesting. But you
Yeah.
took it to the next level. So,
Well, it wasn't the documentary. It
right.
wasn't my awakening, that awakening moment that got me. In 2007, my awakening moment got me digging and finding Abraham Hicks, finding Seth. I read all
Mhm.
of Seth's material, finding LLL, finding all of those. So it had me go on a deep, it gave me the understanding, it gave me the peace that I was missing. That's
Right.
what that gave me. And then I started really doing my homework on it.
Right.
Now, what inspired my show was the transition of my son.
Right.
And my son transitioned in 2014. So we're
Hmm.
talking 7 years later. But it was actually like my key moment that changed my life forever happened in 2011.
Okay.
It's when doctors told me my son lived 26 very healthy years. He was a football player. He played
Right.
football in high school, never sick a day in his life,
Right.
completely healthy. At 26 years old, he was diagnosed with congestive heart failure. He was born with a hole in his heart, and doctors said when he was born, nothing to worry about. That'll close within a year or two.
Right.
Okay. Now, like I said, he is the healthiest child I ever was. You know, I took him to regular doctor visits, and when he was a baby and all that, well checked, but never ever sick. The hole was never. We were never told that the hole didn't close.
Right.
Okay. But at some point, even he had physicals to play sports in school,
Hmm.
never detected that. But doctors, when he was diagnosed in 2011, when he was diagnosed with congestive heart failure, doctors could not explain why. I instinctively knew must be from that hole that he was born with that never completely closed. Because even if you have a tiny, tiny microscopic hole in your heart,
Right.
it can get infected. So at some point in his 20s, in his early to mid 20s, his heart got infected, maybe just from a common cold,
Right.
and it weakened his heart. So by the time he was diagnosed with congestive heart failure, his heart was very weak.
Hmm.
So he was so a few months after he was diagnosed, he got pneumonia,
Hmm.
and he was medevaced. He was on life support and medevaced to a hospital in Philadelphia. And doctors, after he was on life support for 2 weeks, doctors didn't think he was going to live. And they said to me, they took me out of his ICU room and said to me, we don't think he's going to make it. They were asking me to give permission to take him off life support.
Oh, I
So
can
now,
imagine
so
having
this
to
is
make that choice.
well, this is December of 2011. He did
Right.
not transition. Okay. But in December of 2011, I said, no, I'm not giving permission, but I knew what I was going to do. Even though I was awakened, I knew that life was eternal. I've never in my life been afraid of death. Never.
Hmm.
I've always known from childhood that there was much more to life than this reality, and I
Right.
never was afraid of death. So I was awakened to oneness. I knew that I was creating this reality. I was creating this whole scenario with my son. But I said, I am not going through this. I am not going to bury my son. I
Right.
went to a waiting room. I took a bottle of over-the-counter sleeping pills. I wrote a suicide note. I am not going to bury my son. My son is going to bury me.
Oh
I was
no.
unconscious for 2.5 days. I remember being in the I remember being in the ER where the doctor was physically shaking me. I was in the ER. He's physically shaking me. He's holding one of the pills that I guess I tried. I know I had a bottle of water like this. I had a
Right.
bottle of water, and I tried to take all of them. I know a few of them fell out of my mouth. I didn't take all of them. So they were blue pills. I remember the color. He's holding the pill in front of my face and saying, how many of these did you take? And I'm thinking to myself, this is my thoughts, Brian. I'm thinking, I'm not supposed to still be here. That's my first thought.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking, what a stupid question. He's asking me how many. I didn't count them. So
Right.
I'm thinking, what a stupid question. So with full knowledge, I'm saying to myself, he's asking me a stupid question. I'm going to give him a stupid answer. I said one, and I was out again. I was out like a light. So I was out again and so the next thing I remember, I was in intensive care. And Kyle, my son's doctor, was standing at the foot of my bed. So Kyle was still on life support. My son's name is Kyle. Kyle was still on life support because they did not have permission to take him off. So he's still on life support. And his doctor is standing at the foot of my bed in the ICU. And he says to me, Kyle needs you. Now, when he says that, I realize Kyle is still here.
Mm-hmm.
So, but long story short, they had me on 24-hour suicide watch.
Mm-hmm.
They had me on the top floor of the hospital. Kyle is in the, what they call the cardiac ICU, still on life support. And they allowed me to visit with him
Mm-hmm.
like once a day for a few, there was somebody with me at all times. It was what they call 24-hour suicide watch, where there was an aide with me at all
Right.
times. So the last time they had me on that, I whispered in Kyle's ear.
Mm-hmm.
I said, Kyle, please get better so we could both go home. That very night, so this is a week after they wanted to take him off life support.
Mm-hmm.
That very night, he pulled himself off life support. It was a true medical miracle.
Mm-hmm.
He pulled out the ventilator and he pulled out the feeding tube, and his vital signs were perfect. That same doctor that said to me, Kyle needs you, said to me, it was like he was never even sick. That's how good his vital signs were.
Wow.
I'm talking about, this was a true medical miracle. And it happened at a hospital that's on 34th Street around Christmas time. So I said, this is my miracle on 34th Street.
Yeah.
One of my favorite Christmas movies. This
Yeah.
was my miracle. So I came home. We came home. Kyle and I came home together December 30th, 2011, the day before New Year's Eve. And we rang in the New Year's together. That was the time. At that moment, I promised God I would never stop thanking him for this miracle. Just to be able to bring my son home.
Mm-hmm.
From that experience, I never to this day stopped thanking him. Now, 2.5 years later, okay, so that's December of 2011, and Kyle was with me for 2.5 more years. He gets sick again,
Yeah.
April of 2014. He's being ambulanced to the same hospital in Philadelphia. And I said to God, I don't know. I'm thanking God in that now moment. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm still thanking him for the miracle that I went through.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I don't know if I'll be able to bring him home this time. I hope to, but I don't know. When Kyle did actually transition, because I don't use the word death, when Kyle actually transitioned on July 1st of 2014, I was at complete peace.
Right.
I was at complete peace because I knew, number one, he wasn't going anywhere. He was just leaving that body, and he was not his body.
Right.
No soul leaves before its time, so I knew it was his time, and I knew it was a soul plan that he and I had together. I don't know if you're familiar with Your Soul's Plan and Your Soul's Gift by Robert Schwartz.
Yes.
But he was my first guest. He was my first guest.
Oh, wow.
On my show. But I got the inspiration to start my show 6 months after Kyle's transition.
Okay.
Spirit woke me up in the middle of the night and said, just do it.
Just do it.
I had no idea what a podcast was. But Spirit woke me up in the middle of the night and said, just do it. And I get on Google and I said, well, how do you start an internet radio show? And and then I also founded a foundation in my son's memory. It's called the Kyle Foundation, but Kyle is an acronym. Kyle stands for Keep Your Light Expanding.
I love it. That's fantastic. Yeah.
Yes. So that was my inspiration to live my purpose.
Yeah.
Was actually,
I love it. So when we interviewed, you told me this story about some robbers that had come into your home. Was that Kyle?
No, that wasn't Kyle. That wasn't Kyle. Kyle was
so
my
for people
youngest.
that didn't see that, just tell us a little more about what happened. Yeah.
All right. Well, that was with my daughter, Nukia, who's my oldest child.
Right.
I only have two. Kyle was my youngest. They were 4 years apart. My daughter was 3 months old.
Hmm.
And at that time, like my husband and I, we had our own apartment, but because it was my first baby, I spent
Right.
a lot of time at my parents' house. So my mom always worked at night, so she was never home at night. She worked. She was the supervisor of a hospital lab, and my father happened to be out that night. And so we're in my childhood bedroom that I grew up in, me and my husband and my baby, and I have my baby in a bassinet, my 3-month-old baby. And the doorbell rings, and my husband, he's half asleep. He gets up thinking, oh, it must be your dad. He probably forgot his keys. So he just goes down and opens the front door without, asking who is it or anything. He just opens the
Right.
door, and two robbers come in with guns. Two men, it's like home invasion. So this
Yeah.
is the 80s. This is 81. Okay,
Oh,
home
wow.
invasion. And so they come, one of them comes upstairs. He says, the first thing my husband said, oh my God, my wife and my baby are upstairs. And so
Oh.
one of them comes upstairs. Yeah. So he goes, one of them comes upstairs. Like I said, my daughter is sleeping in her bassinet, and I'm still not, don't know, I'm still thinking it's my father at the door,
Right.
and then this guy comes in the bedroom with a gun, and the first thing he does, he goes over to the bassinet, he picks up my daughter, 3 months old, and holds the gun to her head. And like I
Oh,
said, honestly, I'm telling you, I can't even describe. It wasn't fear, it
right.
wasn't panic, it wasn't any of those emotions that you would think a
You would
person
think.
would go through in that moment. I didn't have any of that. And I can't even put what I was experiencing into words.
Hmm.
And then the other guy came up and saw what this guy was doing and said, oh man, don't do that. And he takes the baby from him and gives me the baby. So, but in that moment where this man is holding a gun to my baby's head, the thing is, I can tell you, it was not
It
panic,
was not
it
panic.
wasn't fear,
Yeah.
it was none of those, and I can't even put it into words. It's kind of described, kind of like what you described when you
Right.
were describing your experience to
That's
me.
why you're my soul sister, because when you told that story, I resonated with it so much, because that's
Yes,
what happened to me. You would think that you would just lose yourself with fear, but in that moment, there's this calmness that comes, and that calmness was the presence of something much larger. And so it literally almost identical to what happened to me, a little bit different, but
right,
just wow.
right,
The
right.
similarity between both stories is so amazing.
Yes, yes, yes,
So
yes. Yes, and because like when you shared, that's what, when you shared your story with me,
right.
that's what brought me back to that. I know exactly what you were feeling, because
Right.
and there's words cannot. It was a calm. It was, and and it's kind of hard to say that you were calm while there's a man holding a gun to your baby's head. But
Right.
it was a calm. It wasn't a fear. It wasn't a panic, and yeah, so I totally, yeah. And your
Wow.
show, and now is the first time I've been doing my show for 5 years. I've shared the story with my son many times, but
Hmm.
that story is the first time I shared it, and I shared it because of your experience that brought me to that experience, that same
Yeah.
experience.
Well, you said you're working on your book, so I want to make sure to put that in your book, because
Yes. Oh, definitely,
yeah. And
definitely,
so
definitely.
it's an interesting, once it happened to me, and I've met several people that have had similar moments when life is on the line like that, and and they have the same thing. They say that a calmness overtook them.
Yes.
I've talked to people that have been in car accidents, that there's no way they could survive, and then they survived, and this calmness. So,
Yes.
there's something to that. So,
Yes. Oh, definitely,
you've had some
definitely.
amazing interviews on your show,
Yes.
and so I wanted to ask: is there any that really changed how you were thinking? I mean, you had the documentary and you started, but I sense from you that you're also a student and you're kind of wanting to learn. And so, as you've gone through this process, how has your view changed, having this opportunity to talk to so many wonderful people?
I've done over 200 shows, And here's the thing, and it's kind of hard to, sometimes things that I think are of a higher consciousness level, it's hard to put into words.
Right, it is.
But for me, it 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 it's that simple understanding of oneness that answered all my questions. And
Right,
I'm not saying, I'm not a physicist, I'm not a scientist, I'm not, but it's the simple understanding of oneness. Everything makes sense to me from that one
right.
understanding. So I have great conversations. Every one of my guests are, I have guests from all walks of life. I've had artists, I've had authors, best-selling author Neil Donald Walsh has been a guest. I've had Mary Ann Williamson has been a guest. I've had
Unbelievable.
best-selling authors. I've had scientists. I've had musicians. I've had artists. I've had comedians. I've had people from all walks of life that understand that oneness. And so but it's like, to me, it's just sharing this knowing of oneness with my guests. That's
Yes.
what it is. So because to me, I feel my mission is to let people understand that it's not complicated. You don't have to understand quantum physics.
Right,
It's extremely simple. And
right,
it's that knowing, and it's not, and I say, for me, knowing is belief on steroids. A knowing is something inside. It doesn't
right,
come from the outer world. It does, like your experience didn't come from the
right.
outer world. It was an internal. And when you have that knowing inside that there is nothing separate from you, are all that is, God, source, universe, whatever terminology you want to use, it doesn't matter. But
Mm-hmm.
when you understand that there is no separation, it's a total game changer. And it's like, how could you ever fear anything ever again
Right.
when
It's
you know? Yeah,
it changes everything.
it changes
It
everything.
changes everything, and you're right. It's pretty powerful to experience. Now, uh, as you've gone through this process of higher consciousness and awakening, uh, I'd like to get your personal. Do you have you now? You coach also. I noticed on your website
I
you
do
do some
mentoring.
coaching. You do some mentoring.
I don't
You don't
call
like
it
to call it
coaching.
coaching,
I
right?
don't like to call it coaching.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do mentoring.
I get that.
Mentoring.
I'm with
Yeah.
you all the way.
Yeah.
How have you changed, just for others that how have you changed your daily routine? Have you figured out any things in particular through meditation or techniques that have helped you that we can kind of add to our knowledge and share with anyone else?
Well, for me, it's very important, I think, is the now. It's a now
Hmm.
moment. And I'm actually not a creature of habit. I mean, I
Right.
do meditate every day, but it's not always the same time of day.
Hmm.
For me, I don't guided meditations don't resonate with me. I don't like to
Right.
hear another person's voice when I'm
Understand.
meditating.
Yeah.
I like to just focus on my breath, deep breath, and I use a mantra, and the mantra can change. Like sometimes I use the mantra peace and love, but something, just a high vibrational word as my mantra.
Right.
And I focus on my breath, and I like to listen to like high frequency music in the background,
Right.
something
Okay.
that's going to keep my vibe. But it's not a routine in the
It's not a
sense that
routine.
I do it every day, but it could be a different. I haven't done my meditation yet today. And if I get up earlier, see, it's 2 o'clock here for me.
Right.
It's earlier there for you. But if I get up early enough, and I'm a night owl. I didn't sleep. I haven't been sleeping much since this whole pandemic. So for
Hmm.
the past month, and it's not a bad thing. It's not. I, I am the least worriedest person on the planet.
Right.
I know what's happening from a high, everything, my life, how the main way I can answer your question is I live my life from a spiritual perspective. I
Hmm.
know that I'm still have a body and I'm still here in this 3D realm, but that's not my perspective and focus at all. My focus is spiritual, and I connect. And so living as my higher self within my beingness is,
Right.
and that happens in every now moment, because it's not about the past or the future, which truly doesn't exist. All there is this now. And so in each now moment, I try to remember if something terrible happens or unexpected happens, I try to wait a second, remind yourself who you are. You can look at it, that situation, whatever it is, as an observer. You don't
Right.
have to engage on a 3D level. You can just look and be a witness to it, and then engage with it from a loving. Everything I do, it has to come from a place of love, a place of unconditional love. And I only can do that in each now moment. It's so my day is all my focus and attention. I would say right now, all my focus and intention, 100% of my focus and intention goes on my show and what I'm doing, and it's not bringing a dime of income, and I could care less. I
Right.
could tell you now, anything that has to do with 3D realm, the 3D matrix, I could care less about.
Right.
Right now, my entire focus is 5D. 5D New Earth, because I know that's where we're headed as a humanity, and that's where we're headed individually and collectively, but individually, it's where that person resonates. Everything is about vibration and resonation. So if a person, and it's a free will choice and it's no judgment. If a person now decides, oh, I can't get out of this fear, and it's a free will choice, no judgment, but that fear is going to take them on a timeline, because we know that timelines, we choose the timeline we experience from our emotion, from our vibration. So it's our free will choice as a divine soul what we want to vibrate at, what we choose to vibrate at. And
Right.
right now I'm on the highest vibration. It's like people would say, what kind of drugs is she doing? Give me some of that. I'm serious. I'm on
Right.
such a high because I know now 2020, I've been saying for close to a year now, that 2020 is the year of clear vision. Now, if you go to the eye doctor, and the eye doctor says you have 2020 vision, you don't need glasses like me, okay? So, but there are no coincidences. The
Right.
term 2020 for clear vision for sight was a reason, because the year that we're in right now, 2020, has been earmarked to be the year of humanity's mass awakening. We are
Wow.
going to see things this year, and the great reveal is going to happen. And we are going to all see behind, like in the Wizard of Oz, and you get to see behind the curtain.
Right.
We're going to all get to see behind the curtain.
So when you say 5D, what does that mean to you?
Okay.
What do you envision?
Oh my goodness. 5D is heaven on earth.
Okay.
5D is heaven. 5D, there is no war. There's no poverty. There's no hunger. There's no crime. There's none of the things we as a humanity want on this planet now. In 3D is separation consciousness. Here's the big difference between 3D and 5D.
Right.
3D is separation consciousness. 5D is oneness and unity consciousness. In 5D, we know, like breathing, that other person is an aspect of us. That other person is us. That other person is the divine. We know it like breathing in 5D. So
Right.
imagine being in a world where everybody knows, like breathing. Seth speaks about it. Bashar speaks about it all the time. We know, like breathing, that person is us. How can another person hurt another person?
Right.
If you know that person is an aspect of you. It's like, say, I'm going to take this hammer and bang it on my pinky, thinking that my pinky is separate from me, okay?
Right.
You know? So that's the main difference. So, and we are going to be moving, because once the big reveal happening, this is the year. Once the big reveal happens, we're going to gradually start moving towards oneness consciousness, unity consciousness, and we're going to be living that life where, again, like I said, There will be no crime. There will be no war. There will be no poverty. Everybody in 5D will be living what their purpose. They'll be doing what makes them happy. They don't have, there's no jobs. Don't think about a job. You're just doing what resonates. Yes, no
Okay.
jobs. There'll be no money. There'll be no economy. There'll be no government. You don't need government when everybody knows to live from a place of love. And
Right.
that's what everybody will be doing. We'll be living from a place of unconditional love in 5D. So you don't even need a government because we'll be self-governing.
Right.
And we'll be living, and we'll be able to manifest instantly. Say, okay, I want a cup of coffee. Just think about it. The cup of coffee will appear. We
Right.
will, okay, in 5D, we will still have a physical body. It won't be the same. See, right now, our bodies are carbon-based.
Right.
And in 5D, our bodies will be crystalline based. So there'll be a lighter, we won't need as much food as we need now because we'll be more energy than, but we still will have a physical body, but it will be our higher self living through our physical body. Right now, it's just a tiny portion of us living in this, through this body.
Right.
We have a higher self and we know of our higher self, but our higher self is not in this 3D realm. It's too much of a box for our higher self. Our higher self needs more expansion.
Right.
But our higher self, we will be living as our higher self in 5D. And I'm talking about something within the next few years. I'm not talking about hundreds of years from now.
Really? So when you say
Really?
the big reveal, that can have a lot of different meanings.
Yes.
And the vision that you have is pretty radical. There would be some parties and groups that would be highly opposed to that. It would not be a peaceful transition to a big reveal like you just indicated. What do you mean by a big reveal?
I think it can be. I think when the big reveal, okay, when I say the big reveal, I'm saying life, things are not what they appear to be.
Right.
Okay. And many of us are already awakened to that. I'm pretty sure you are. I mean, there's millions of us already awakened to the fact that things are not, that mankind as a whole, we're not talking about countries. I'm talking about mankind as a whole has been put in a box.
Right.
And many of us are already awakened to that truth. I've been awakened to that truth since 2012.
Right.
Okay. But now when I say the big reveal, now the masses will see behind the curtain. Really, the Wizard of Oz. See, I love with the Wizard of Oz, there's really two great analogies. We'll see behind the curtain, we'll see the truth of the wizard that has been controlling us. We'll see that truth. And then we'll realize with Dorothy at the end, when the angel said I'm calling her an angel, but the mother said to her, click the red shoes.
You're right.
You already have that power within you. You always had it.
Right.
See, we didn't know. We already have the red shoes on. We already have that power.
Right.
It's already within us. But the big reveal, now when the big reveal happens and the masses will see what's actually going on behind the scenes, when that happens, you're going to have, there's a group of people of us that are already awake to help those that are like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. So we're here. There's a big group already here to help them. And then there is going to be another group that I've been told, there is going to be another group that wants to fight because they're just angry. But what happens, and I'm not a psychic or anything. I don't know exactly what happens to that group. That I think it's a small group that they're so angry they just want to fight. They're definitely, because none of that is going to 5D.
Right.
You know, none of that anger and none of those low vibration emotions are getting to 5D. And it's our emotions that take us to 5D.
Right. Well, Dolores Cannon talks about in interviews where she talks about to several entities about going to 5D that not everybody's going to go to the new earth.
Right. Well,
many will be left behind, and in some ways it will be tragic. Now, this is my own discernment. There's obviously a group of people that would not want us to awaken in that manner. And they're very, very good at manipulating ideas and the media. So they're
Yes.
gonna, the most interesting is they will come to you and say that we are the Grand Awakening. All of these entities, everything I read, and I interviewed someone else yesterday, they're all saying it's not complicated, but if you follow the fear, then you'll get pulled away from the new earth. But you're probably the same as me. I continuously see stuff online where people are talking about the Grand Awakening, but it's tied to fear. It's tied to weird conspiracies and stuff on the outside. And it's like I talk to people that are like, oh, I don't have to do any work myself.
Oh.
I'm just going to sit on the couch and drink my beer, and then I'm going to be awoken. And
No.
like
Okay.
it's like there are people that want to tell you, oh, you don't have to do any work. We're going to reveal cool stuff over here, and you'll be. And my big message, and I'm hoping that you have seen this, is that you will not awaken with anything that happens on the outside. You may understand, but it all happens no matter what's happening on the outside. Sometimes you can't trust it all. It goes within. You are not going to go to this new earth unless you awaken within, and that you learn about your own consciousness. That's the thing I'm concerned. I talk to people and they're worried about something that's happening on the outside. And the truth of it is none of it matters.
Right.
None of it matters, right?
You're exactly right. The path to the reality, but the path is within. It everything is, and I always say to my listeners and on my show, I'm just sharing my story, and I'm
Right.
sharing what resonates as true for me. But I tell people, do not take a word of what I'm saying.
Right.
Do your own homework.
Go within.
And you have it. The path to 5D is within. The path to every earth is within.
Right.
Because it's really a choice of fear or love. Those are the
Right.
big emotions that we can choose from. And so the person is saying, oh, I don't have to do anything. No, that's not true. Because
Right.
it's not a doing, it's a being.
It's a being, yes.
It's a state of being.
Right.
5D is a state of being. So 5D is a state of being where it's all love and light. Mm-hmm. That's 5D. And 3D is a state of being where it's separation. Right. And this year, roads are splitting.
Yeah.
Now up until this year, you can have 1 foot in 5D and 1 foot in 3D.
Right.
It's okay. But now it's gonna split.
Right. I can feel that.
December, it's gonna split. You're gonna either be on the 5D train or the 3D train. And to be there is just to be love, unconditional love in your heart. That's all you need. You don't have to do anything big and spectacular, mm-hmm. but you do have to be in alignment with your higher self. For your higher self to live through you in 5D, you have to be in alignment with your yes. higher self. So it's a being, it's an internal state of being.
Thank you.
Yes.
So, and the big message that you give that I want to continuously share is the oneness. If you yes. see groups outside that you hate or groups that you think they're evil, those groups are you. So yes. if you're constantly talking about, oh, there's this evil group and they've done the most dastardly, horrible things, or this country or this leader or this whatever,
right.
If you do not realize that they are you, then you're still separated and you're not in 5D.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. That's 4D. That's what, right now
right.
there's 3D, 4D, and 5D. Okay,
right.
So and I did a little video about this last week. 3D mm-hmm. it's just the physical. They're only focused on the physical world, what they see, touch, and hear. That's all that their world exists of is the physical world. That's right. 3D. 4D is, now I'm awake to the fact that we're being controlled, we've been in a box, right. and that entity or that group or that organization that are controlling us, they're evil, they're dark, we have to destroy them.
Right.
That's a 4D mentality. That's still light versus dark, which is still separation. That is not 5D. That is not 5D. 5D is knowing that shadow side is our collective.
Right.
Each of us individually has a shadow side, and collectively we have a shadow side. And that part of us that is trying to control us is our shadow side. It's not
Thank
separate from
you.
us.
Thank
Not
you.
separate at all.
So,
Because that, yes.
yeah.
And
And so people that are watching TV saying, oh, it's the awakening now, those guys got arrested or they stopped that group. No, that's not the awakening.
right.
The awakening is happening within.
Yes.
And it's a message, because I just see people getting derailed and,
Right.
and on purpose. Like, this group says, yeah, we got to stop this awakening that's happening because we're going to lose our money. Right? We don't want to lose our money. So maybe we'll create an awakening over here, and you can, and so it's like a big pony show.
Yes.
But
Yes.
the
Yes.
thing that is, my intuition tells me, and maybe because you might, is there is an internal knowing. You're not going to read it in the news. You're just going to know. This internal knowing of the truth is part of this. That it doesn't matter what you think is happening in the outside world. There's an internal knowing.
Right.
That
Right.
that's a part of it.
Right, because the outer world is truly an illusion. It's not
Right.
real. Okay, I learned in 7th grade that nothing is truly solid when we studied molecules and atoms. You put anything under a high-powered microscope, what do you see? You see tiny particles moving. They're not solid. We don't
Right.
live in a
Right.
solid world. We're creating this world with our thoughts and our beliefs and our mind. So it's nothing ever comes from the outer world.
Right.
No, it's not going to come from the news media. And plus, please turn off that news. I haven't watched it in 19 years. I have not watched a bit of news in 19 years. Thank you, Jesus. I mean, I'm just saying that
And the
because
social media too, and the internet. That stuff
yes,
can replace your news, right?
it's
So
it's not coming. Truth comes from within.
yes.
It resonates in your heart and it comes from within. But the other thing I wanted to mention that you said, yes, we're not going to all make it to 5D at this particular juncture,
But
but
eventually.
we will all, yes. There's
Right.
not one soul will be lost. Everyone is of the light and everyone will return to the light.
Right.
Right now, there's the shadow aspects of us are playing that shadow role.
Right.
And then their soul, higher self might say, okay, I don't want to go to the light. I want to play down in the mud for a little while longer, which is fine. There's no judgment on that because eventually, because in truth, there is no time. So in truth, we've all never left the light. In truth,
Right.
So yes, we're here, we're playing the game.
Right. Another thing Dolores Cannon said that was interesting, that we have all these terrible deaths right now from the pandemic, that there was going to be a point before the new earth where God, the creator, would protect several people and allowing them to leave early so they don't because they're not ready to go to the new earth, and if they stayed it would be horrific for them.
But here's the thing too,
yeah.
The timeline from the information I'm getting, like I said, I don't watch news. I listen to channel information. Only information I listen to is channel information. From what I'm hearing, this pandemic, which is the beginning, is actually, we chose a higher timeline to get to the new earth, where we don't have to go through catastrophes and Armageddon and all these crazy things that we think of to get to the new earth. We honestly don't. We are on the path to the new earth right here and now. And it's with something as mild as this fear pandemic where we're trapped in our house.
Right.
That's the first step. And then after the fear pandemic, the next step is going to be the mass reveal. And how people process that mass reveal is going to take them to the next level. But sometime within this year, and how it is going to, I have no idea. I had no idea. I knew something big was going to happen in 2020. I had no idea it was going to start in March. I thought what I was looking for big, I thought it would start, maybe September. I'm like, then I'm like, wow.
Well, it's kind of laying the ground.
Faster timeline.
Maybe this isn't the big thing yet. This is just laying the ground.
This is the beginning of the big thing.
We all need to take some time and look within before this happens. And so, how do you get us all to stop, go home, and go within before the reveal. I mean, it kind of feels like, well, that's what's going on.
Exactly. This is what I'm telling you. They're saying the higher consciousness is saying right now, humanity as a collective, we have chosen the highest timeline. Right now, we are on the highest timeline because yes, right now, the shutdown while we're in our houses, this is the time. Take more time to meditate. Take more time to go within. Take more time to eat healthier. Drink more spring water. Eat more healthy. I'm not telling everybody to become a vegan, but eat healthier. Really go within. Really please turn off that television. Step away. Matter of fact, I just posted. You can share that. I just posted yesterday a video with tips on how to go through this, and I'll send that video to you. It's just a short 10-minute video of steps you can do to go through this. This is our preparation time. And so we are at the beginning of it, but we have to see it for what it really is. It is the universe saying, okay, stay home, slow down, go within, because the big reveal is coming and we want you to be ready. We want you to be prepared for it.
Right.
So yes.
I love it. So I just resonated with you so much. Your story resonated with me. I could see myself and everything. Obviously, we're one. I could see myself with your story, and I just recommend everybody to check out your radio show. It's Awake to Oneness with the number 2. Awake number 2 oneness.com.
Right. It's actually Awake to Oneness Radio.
Awake to Oneness Radio.org. Okay.
Yes.
And you have a blog there that's set up. You can see you've interviewed some amazing authors, and it's a great show, and I recommend it. And so that was the biggest message. I just wanted, instead of watching the same old thing on the news that is the same thing from yesterday that is the bad news, take a look at some of Caroline's interviews, and you'll see get some amazing information. But the biggest message that is that we are all one, and it's wonderful to hear you spreading that message. I think it's a fundamental part of this awakening. We all get distracted, and we have different ideas of what's going on right now.
Right.
And I say, don't get distracted. Go to the core of it. Go within. And thank you for sharing that message, and I appreciate that.
Yes.
So.
Very true.
It's been a real joy talking with you, and I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Brian, so much for having me. And yes, that's what I'm saying. I'm just so excited because now I feel like I even have to share. I've been doing the show now for 5 years, but because of the times we're living in right now, I feel like I even have to share the message even more. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And it's been wonderful, and we'll talk soon.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
All right,
take care. Bye-bye.
Well, welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm just really excited today because this is the first day that my book is released. This is it, the Reality Revolution. Worked on this for a very long time. So many of the things that I discovered along the way, and I was excited to share it with everybody. Tell you a little bit about it. I'm like everybody else. I'm interacting in the world and starting to realize that my thoughts created reality. As I did this, I started to see some major shifts in my reality. I started to explore the idea of maneuvering through parallel realities. I'm your host, Brian Scott.